Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, if Boris does get his way and Britain leaves, then what happens next? Well, one option is the UK could end up with an arrangement like Norway, as Boris Johnson and I were just talking about. Norwegians narrowly voted to stay out in 1994. Since then, the polls suggest they are keener than ever to stay out. So, does that mean their situation isn't so bad outside the EU? Well, yes and no. The country is a member of the European Economic Area, giving it access to the single market. But in return, it's had to adopt around 3/4 of all EU directives, with limited say, quite frankly, over how they're drawn up. Although they do have opt-outs on areas like fishing, justice and home affairs. In addition, they also, like us, contribute to the EU budget. In 2011, they paid the equivalent of £106 per person. Here we pay the equivalent of £128 each. And, of course, they have to accept the principle of freedom of movement.
They run a tight rail system in Norway, clean and efficient, governed, as in Britain, by rules on safety, competition and passenger rights. And just as in Britain, those are European rules, written and agreed in Brussels. But unlike Britain, Norway gets no say. Bjarne Berkram is the railway official who gets to go to Brussels and be told what he must implement.
And we may even have the right to speak, but when it comes to the vote, our representative is literally asked to leave the room.
So you sit outside while they vote on regulations that apply to you?
Yes, that's right.
This, its ministers realise, is the price Parliament and businesses must pay if they're to sell to Europe.
Importing 5 EU laws per day of sitting of the Norwegian Parliament. Most sectors are affected by European law simply because we want to be part of the single market. It's a huge economic opportunity for us that would be missed if we didn't incorporate EU legislation.
Norway's main anti-EU campaigners recognise the contradictions here, but rather than urging Britain to follow their example, they're hoping a post-Brexit UK will help them out.
No, I don't recommend the Norwegian model, but I want you to go out of the EU and find your own model and your own trade agreement with the EU.
So that you can copy it?
Yes, and we want to see what kind of model you get.
On the towering bridge that spans the Ringdals Fjord, there is further evidence that staying outside the EU has not given Norway full control. This is Norway's border with the EU. They even mark on the road here where non-EU Norway ends and EU member Sweden begins. It is, as you can see, wide open, as it's required to be, if they're to have access to the EU single market. Yes, they say we could control our border, but the cost in lost business and jobs would be too high. The result is a capital city as diverse as many in Europe, and an immigration rate which, for their population, is 3 times higher than Britain's. They need the workers, so it's not too controversial. But they warn there's no panacea when it comes to immigration.
We will not have more ability to control migration, if we are inside or outside EU.
It makes no difference?
No, no difference at all.
Is that a lesson for Britain?
Yes, I think it is.
The people happiest with Norway's current position are the farmers and fishermen, for whom avoiding the common agricultural and fisheries policies has ensured high prices and little competition. Odd Einar Hjortnes, who wears a No to the EU t-shirt with pride, can only make a living with his small dairy herd because the Norwegian system keeps food prices high.
If we had to open our borders for production from all other European countries without limits, we would be competed out, with no doubt.
There is less enthusiasm for copying the Norwegian model than there used to be because it so obviously fails to deliver many of the things the Leave campaign consider essential. Can Britain, with its much greater leverage, achieve something different and better? That will be the key question were Britain to vote to leave. James Mates, News at 10, Norway.
I've been